Welcome to the Mastermind Group, Your Ideal Life, in association with the Noble Goldman Group. The power of the Mastermind is the principle through which you may borrow and use the education, the experience, the influence, and perhaps the capital of other people in carrying out your own plans in life. It's the principle through which you can accomplish in 1 year more than you could accomplish without it in a lifetime if you depended entirely on your own efforts for success. We will ask each member of the group to take a number and we'll read through the code of conduct in due course.
Good morning.
Good
morning, gentlemen.
Morning, gentlemen and Martin.
Veronica, good morning.
Hello, Veronica.
Hey.
Can you
Feel like we haven't been to bed?
I just did the classic mistake, Martin. I started a meeting logged into your account. And I suddenly noticed, I went, oh no, I'm still logged into Martin's account.
Oh no, all of a sudden I've become really handsome and 30 years younger.
No, I noticed this increased wisdom and the growth of hair. Well, and the better looks, obviously.
So now we've got the other imbalance, Martin.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know you're going to be loving this, Veronica. I'm sure of it. Or not.
Just keep it clean.
Or not, maybe. Because last night it was well, there was only Adam on the other call, and I was surrounded by 10 females, and then on the Gold Star call, it was just me and 5 ladies. I was loving it. So.
I saw that, recall that picture come up. I was, I hunt the bloke. He probably felt hunted.
It's like the cartoon. Where's Wally?
Mm.
You're just a chick magnet, aren't you, Martin?
I like to think so, Tony, but reality says no.
Proof of that is video of him feeding chickens as well. We've seen that. So.
We've got Stan joining us as well.
How's it going, Veronica? Got you with a mouthful of food now?
No, I haven't had a chance to really get to know it yet. It's a lot more complicated.
Do you still have to put a key in?
Sorry?
Still have to put a key in to start your car?
I still need a key, yeah.
Still got a steering wheel, 4 wheels?
Steering wheel, an accelerator and a brake, and that's really all that matters.
Petrol goes in one end, water in the other end. That's all you need to know.
I gotta get used to automatic because my car was a manual. They don't make Camrys manual anymore.
All right. The best bit of advice I was given when I got into an automatic that I borrowed from a friend's was put your left foot out the way. Only need your right foot. Your left foot, get it away.
Yep. Good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. The hardest thing for me is trying to keep track of my speed because when you're driving a manual, you can hear the engine, you know what kind of speed you're going.
Is it big dial?
Yeah, I know, but I'm busy looking at the road usually, so I just glance down every now and then. I need to do that more often now.
You're one of those people that drives by the tachometer, so I gotcha.
Right. I just thought we'd give it a minute or so just for any possible latecomers, but let's get started. So we'll go through the numbers. So Martin, number 1, Glenn, number 2, Veronica, number 3, Stan, number 4, and me, number 5. I'm getting pinging noises. I think it's just emails coming in or something like that. So, okay. So I will just bring up the Mastermind principles. Can we all see that all right?
Yep.
Let's go back to the first page. All right. So Martin, if you want to head us off.
Yep, the Mastermind principles. The purpose of the Mastermind is to learn leadership, build teams, and create multiple sources of income together.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and exceed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during meetings.
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open to listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during meetings.
We are real and authentic. This is a no BS zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and the high forces, one mind, one soul, one love.
Excellent. Thank you, people. That is tremendous. I was, as I said, when I first joined doing this, I thought that was a little odd, perhaps, but then I very quickly got into the realization that it actually sets a great framework for the meetings, and especially for anyone that might be new on the call. And in this case, anyone who might be watching it who would have liked to have attended but couldn't be here. So I thought today's topic would be an interesting one, would be, I've got this. And what came up for me this week was I ventured out of my home yesterday and went to a business networking breakfast, which I haven't done since about October last year. Staggering, isn't it? So because of the lockdown and everything, I just hadn't been out to anything like that. And so I actually went to my very first District 32 meeting. And there was probably, I don't know, I didn't actually count, but I'd say somewhere around 25, 30 people present at the meeting. And so having run my own meetings for some time now, to actually walk into a meeting like that where I was the complete outsider and first time visitor, it was a little, let's say, perhaps daunting. It was a little apprehensive, thinking, okay, I've got to walk into this room and I don't know anybody. I knew a couple of people, so it wasn't too bad. And of course, everyone was very friendly and very welcoming, and that was fine. But then it came to the elevator pitches, and it's going around the table, obviously. And I don't know if any of you ever experienced this. I'm sure one or two of you have at some point. You start thinking, okay, it's going to be my turn to speak in a minute. What am I going to say? And it's been a long time since I did an elevator pitch. So I had that moment where you start thinking, you suddenly notice, you observe your bodily reaction to what's about to happen, because you're going to be the one who's going to have to stand up and talk. And so you suddenly notice you're breathing, your chest is tightening up a little bit, you're getting a little bit nervous, I'm going to have to speak. Now this is, again, bear in mind, I've hosted lots of my own meetings. I've been to plenty, I've hosted other people's meetings. I've been public speaker on many occasions. And yet I still experience that same sensation of nervousness, but I can't remember who it was I was listening to, but I listened to a really good, I think it was an audio book actually. And the speaker was talking about when you experience this feeling, and it's probably would describe it as feeling nervous or apprehensive. And you know all the symptoms, your heart starts going a little bit, your chest tightening, your breathing's changing. And you change it to, there it is, I know that feeling, I've had this before. It's actually not nervousness, it's excitement. And so you change it from nervousness to excitement. And then you go, right, well, I'm excited, I'm about to speak. This is cool, And so suddenly it's showtime and you stand up and off you go. So what I was just wondering is, on what occasions or what stories would you like to share where you've had that sensation of nervousness and self-doubt starts to creep in? Would anyone like to share a story along those lines? And if so, what happened?
My first dance performance, and everyone subsequent, but the first one was definitely the most daunting. Despite, you know, months and months of preparation, you get waiting to go on stage. It's like you think of everything that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you just do it, and if anything does go wrong, you just got to get up and keep going and pretend that was part of the program.
So they actually teach you, if you fall, you just get up and get on with it.
Oh yeah, there's been actual workshops that I've been to where the dancers have demonstrated how to get up glamorously.
I always think when you say that, I always think about those ice skating performances in the Olympics, because that's one of those ones where the standard is so high. Every move has got to be perfect, doesn't it? Otherwise, one slip and you're gone. And you know, they attempt those like triple spins in the air and then they land perfectly on the ice skates and go on. Especially when they're doing it as a partnership, you know, a guy and a girl doing a move together, but literally dancing on ice. And one slip and their cactus, the whole performance just gets ruined, doesn't it? But you see some of them, they do that and they just spring straight back up and off they go and just carry on with their routine. I'm always full of admiration for those people that manage to do that.
Yeah. Well, even in classes, they'll teach you, especially spinning. I did a lot of landing on my backside with spinning. So yeah, you just have to keep going, and when you do fall over, you realise that it's not really that bad. And same with sailing as well, tipping over the boat. That was part of the practice. You learn to tip over the boat, and it's, you know, how to get it back up, and yeah, keep going.
Cool. Martin, can you explain what you've put in the chat box there? Because I'm rather confused by that comment. I must have missed it. What was that in relation to?
You said, "I've got this."
Right. Okay.
So,
I didn't think about that interpretation, but
yeah.
Thanks for that.
So I won't come on the call again. Yeah, Glenn instantly shook his head, and I realised I crossed the line, and I thought, oh well, too late now. So.
Well, it does say we're allowed to have fun on these meetings, so that's
exactly so that was the intention behind it. A bit of fun. Yeah, great shares. I was actually like diving deep into the past there in regards to relating to the topic, and one of the things that is similar actually to what you were saying there, Tony, in your experience with District 32, was when I was actually at one of David's meetings, and it was in a group where I hadn't been. I just came along to that group, and I remember all the people doing their elevator pitch and it coming closer to me, and for some reason I just went into this total panic mode of how to approach my elevator pitch. And all of a sudden, I'm like literally shifting from different ideas and different ways to do it. And I got up and I did it, and I sat down, and I actually felt disgusted with myself because I was confused with what I said. It didn't flow. And someone who knew me well was there, and that person said, that really didn't sound like you at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was so in my head where I was usually in my heart and just letting it flow.
And you'll need the playroom tidy. You're going to have visitors coming tomorrow. Cool.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Stan, for that.
And tidy that playroom.
Number 8 on the principal, Stan, is no interruptions.
They have fun, so they've got to tidy the playroom.
I thought Stan was talking to you.
So,
sorry, Martin. I went to put myself on.
perfectly fine, mate.
I want to turn my video off so I could turn around and get the boys. I'm obviously.
That's so good. Yeah. So like it made me realize afterwards that I do already have the skills. I don't need to be getting myself into a state of working myself up and being uncertain about myself. And that, I think that is that really when you look at it and go, I've got this. I think, yeah, it's called I've got this. Is then that realization afterwards that I do have the ability, I do have the skill set, I do have the experience to be able to step up in that situation and speak from the heart. And really, I suppose every single experience is to helping us understand where we are and how we can improve, and really realization of how great we really are when we just take the time to appreciate it.
So I love that. That's a great share, because I love the distinction that you've made there between sharing from being in your head and sharing from your heart. Because when you actually are in alignment, you're in connection with that other chakra. You're actually, it flows much better, because that alignment and that passion is there for the topic. And in your case, especially you would have been talking about your water, I would imagine. So you would have been fully aligned with everything you believe about how that helps people's health and so on. So it's a totally different experience to when you're trying to figure it out in your head to how can I say this so it's going to sound clever or witty or compelling, or that it's going to attract people to want to know more about what I'm trying to sell here. Effectively, you're selling your business.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other things on top of that, which was so great about that experience, was somebody else had the guts and chose to be truly honest in that moment and let me know that that wasn't you.
Mm.
Why did you choose to say it like that? And that was another realization that, where was I in that moment? And I could only have been up here.
Mm.
Yeah. That feedback was critical to helping me realize that what I felt on the inside was actually felt externally as well.
So have you had that? I mean, that obviously that helped you to sort of reflect on what had just happened. So did you ever have that happen to you again? Or was it something that, because it happened once and you'd been made aware of it by somebody else, that you knew for future occasions to sort of center yourself before you spoke?
I think I'm confident to say it would have corrected, but I didn't allow it to take over. It was that thing of, come on, we're not going down that path again. We know that result and we're not going to be happy with it. So let's choose to just push that away. It's kind of like when Glenn's trying to get into the mastermind and he's knocking on the door and I'm making that decision. Should I really let him in? So couldn't help it, mate.
Glenn's usually the first one to jump in on my mastermind, so I would never dare knock him back.
Just in case nobody else rocks
In case
up.
no one else.
Very thick, guys, very thick.
Just as well.
No,
you have a story for us, Glenn?
No, I'm just sitting here biding my time at the moment. Listen to what you guys have got to say.
Well, Stan, it's over to you.
Over to Stan, go on.
You've got the kids under control and all's well in the playroom. You'll need to unmute yourself, though, if you're going to talk.
Yeah, no, I talked already. Everyone clean their playrooms up. I had something and I talked to the kids about the playroom. I forgot what I was doing. I was busy listening to everybody else.
Well, I
was trying to actively listen. I suppose one happened. So I've been doing some stuff with Transformational Academy. I started some courses before I started my other course, and then they decided they were having practice pods, which was coaches getting together, then whacked into breakout rooms and practicing. And so I'm like, I was like a little bit kind of nervous about doing stuff. So I'd kind of made sure I kind of reviewed some of the units that I was ready to go. And then I get there and find out that I'm like a senior coach and everybody else just started and nobody knows what's going on. So it was like, yeah, it was a switch from, hey, I'm already prepared, and now it's excitement.
So you've made that conversion from nervousness to excitement.
Yes.
I can't remember who it was that said that. It must have been a tape I was listening to. It'll come to me. Good, thank you, Sam. All right, well, just trying to think of some other situations where it's occurred. Oh, Glenn, go on then.
I was just biding my time. I wasn't going to shut up all day, especially having followed you two having a go at me.
I thought you were deep in thought about this, and we had to let you delve back into the dark recesses of your mind to come up with a story.
And there's lots of dark recesses in my mind, as you know. There's a lot, from leaving Australia to go to England and then starting in a role out there that I had no idea what it was all about. Jumping in and just going, well, I'm here now, I've got to do it. And yeah, and then all the way to, I suppose, the current day, and things in the middle of playing cricket on a turf pitch in England, which I'd never played on before, but they have this impression because you're a 20-year-old Australian, you know how to hold a cricket bat. Thankfully I did, and I did it right. But then, and the car racing, and I dispute Martin's view of keeping your left foot out of the way, because I use that for braking as well.
Aren't you clever?
There's not a lot of room in a Dolomite pedal box to move your right foot a lot, so you use left as well. Those elevator pitches. When it's interesting to start out with that, because when I first started doing them, I think it was the first one I went to was another group with Denise over in Karanup years ago when I first left the corporate world, and I was literally, panicking. And I spent a lot of time in the first couple doing what Martin did, shifting from what am I going to do. And it was quite easy because I was just there as part of the printing business, but now I'm on my own, it's a little bit different. But you spend a lot of time panicking about what you're going to do. And if anyone had ever asked me what everyone else in the room had done, I had no idea, because I was just worried about me and what I was going to say and how it was going to come across. But when you get that realization that nobody knows you in that room, how do they know if you've got it wrong? They don't know that you've got it wrong at all. So what you're coming out with, could be, okay, I've got my wife sitting there. She knows if I've got it wrong or not, and she would quickly tell me. But if you just think, well, look, it's not. There's nothing to panic about. Now it comes pretty natural. And something else on that with what Martin was saying about talking from the heart. I'm currently doing a voiceover course, and a lot of that is actually the opening week of it. Went to week 3 of 6 now, and I was talking to the coach, the trainer, and I said to her, I said, look, when I have to present figures or a finding or something else like that, when I was back in my corporate life, I would go up there and really stutter and have a hassle with it, because I felt I was being questioned or judged, and has he got this right? Where's he coming from? Well, that's complete BS and whatever else. Whereas if I get up and talk at a funeral or a family event or something like that, and it's coming from here, I don't have that problem at all. And it's, when you shift from there to there and you've really got a feeling about it, then it just comes, pretty natural to me. I still get the sweats on occasionally, as everyone does, but so many occasions. And just, I think it was Martin said, you reflect back on, or maybe even Tony, on actually how much you've achieved and how great you are, then every day you've got this. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's a good share, and it's a good point. I've experienced that, where you're so busy in your own head trying to think about what you're going to say, you realize you've missed what a couple of other people have said because you weren't listening to them. And then you're actually doing, well, both of you, both them and you, a disservice because you're not paying attention. And the whole point of actually being there is to meet the other people and find out what they do, and whether, if you going there with the attitude of how can I help these other people, what is it they can do that I can connect them with somebody else, then it's important to listen to all the other people. If you're just going there about me and I'm just going to tell everyone about me and what I do and I know great, you already hopefully know that you're great, so you don't need to be worried about telling everyone else about it. They'll figure it out if you actually are great. So yeah, it's a good point. It's quite easy
Talking about distractions. I'm sorry, where did that come from? Sort of heard what you said. What is that? Unicorn popped up.
Well,
Did you miss the comment, Glenn? That's great, Veronica. When you mentioned about left foot breaking.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's the last time I'm letting Martin on this meeting.
Martin.
It has all disintegrated since Martin came.
It's better when you had no internet connection.
Yeah. Yeah. So unicorns, okay.
Unicorns. Well done, Veronica.
So yeah, so you just reminded me of another quick story, and you mentioned funerals, which is obviously a lot more of a solemn occasion. And so the very first time I had to speak at a funeral was for Joe's dad, my father-in-law. So he had passed away, and the family were all sitting in the lounge room at the house a couple of days before the funeral, reminiscing old stories, you know, of their dad and what had gone on. And I was sitting there, as I do as a writer, just kind of making notes of what everyone was saying. And then within a few minutes of probably an hour's conversation, I kind of started to reorganize all these notes into a structured kind of a dialogue, or, you know, a speech. And I said, oh, I've got some ideas here. And I was basically drafting it with the view that the funeral director was going to read it out. And so I read out what I had written down, and the family all went, oh, that's fantastic. Can you do the eulogy? And I was just like, I don't know about this, because I felt really under pressure, because it's a situation where you want to do your very best. You know, you can't stuff it up. And this is quite a few years ago. I'd just literally gone over and done my first NLP course. So I wasn't as confident a public speaker way back then as I became over the next few years. So I agreed in principle that I would do it, but I said, as a backup, Joe's sister-in-law would sort of have a copy of the speech and be there with it behind me in case I broke down or couldn't handle it, or, you know, just sort of cracked up generally. Because I thought, how are you going to react in that situation? Because the emotion of the occasion is going to get to you. And so I prepared for it as best I could. But on the day, we came in with the in a hearse, right? So we came in through one door, and we came in, and all of the audience were already in the room assembled. Now, because Alan had worked for years in Perth, he had a heap of people that had turned up for this funeral that he used to work with, and, you know, colleagues from, you know, social events and all sorts of things. There was this room full of people. There must have been, I don't know, 200 people there, and I didn't know more than about 5 of them. And we're sat on the front row, and there's, you know, there's the coffin, and there's the slideshow coming up, pictures of his life, which is all quite emotional, you know, all the family shots and everything. And then suddenly the moment comes, and as that moment's approaching, where I know I'm going to have to get up and talk, I swear that people could have heard my heart pounding, because it was just going, right? The sweat's coming off. I'm just going, holy shit, I'm going to have to get up and talk to all these people in a minute and try and do him justice, you know. And I had actually learned an NLP technique, and it was anchoring, and it was where you connect a feeling of your highest emotional point, where you've had a great success, where you've achieved something fantastic, and you've related that to a ritual. So in this case, it was touching the knuckle on my left hand, just touching that knuckle, taking some deep breaths, and getting back into that state, which was connected to that knuckle, which is a moment. And I'll share this because, you know, not everyone shares these things, but for me, it was a moment when I'd done my first solo cross-country flight, and I'd flown from Jersey over the Normandy coast on my own in a single-engine aircraft, navigated my way to an airfield I'd never been to at Rennes Airfield, and landed the plane, and pulled up the aircraft in front of the control tower, parked it up, turned off the engine, and just going, yes, I've made it, I've survived, I haven't killed myself, and I found this airfield and successfully parked there. So that was the moment that I was anchored to. So it was like one of those all-time high moments in my life. And because I took some deep breaths as well, and I got up, and I delivered a really good eulogy. And I only slightly faltered in the very last sentence of it. So I was able to deliver this performance. And afterwards, we were lined up in the other room with all these people coming through and shaking hands and, wishing the family well and, passing on their condolences and all that. And a few people actually said to me, "Do you do this professionally?" And I was just going, if you knew what was going on in my body leading up to that moment of having to stand up and speak, I was just about having palpitations at the thought of getting up and talking to all these people, trying to sum up a person's life. It was such, it's a huge responsibility because it's so important for the family. And I really felt the pressure of that situation. But because I had a technique there that I could use, I was able to just calm myself and get through it. And like you said, Martin, I spoke from the heart. So it just flowed and it came out okay. And then about a year and a bit later, I had to do my own father's funeral eulogy. And then since had to do my mother's. And so it's one of the toughest things you'll ever have to do, I have to say, for those who haven't yet done it.
Yeah, I spoke at my grandmother's. I was too young. I wasn't even allowed to go to the funeral when my grandfather died. I spoke at my grandmother's funeral with my brother and sister. And then I spoke on behalf of Denise's father for a mate of his that passed away down here. That was slightly easier because the family knew me, but not many of his like old work colleagues and that sort of stuff knew me, so it was a bit easier. It's funny you say that about being connected. There's two people on that course that I'm doing at the moment, and they're both wedding and funeral celebrants. And they've said that you meet the family, you do that work, you go through the whole eulogy and the whole thing, and to them it's work, and that's what they do. And now they're coming into an arena where they've got to put some of them into the words on the page to get them off the page and get under them. And they're actually finding it a little bit difficult to come back the other way. Yeah, so it's interesting shift in the way that your mind works.
So because they're emotionally detached from it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but and they're trying to, and because they've been doing that for such a long time, they're still quite young. I think probably in their 30s or 40s, but they've been their career, and now they're trying to do something else with their voice and do something different. That they're struggling to put themselves into the page and into the background of the script and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's quite interesting to watch them try and work that way. But they're getting there. It's quite good fun, actually.
So once you've become accustomed to speaking in an emotionally detached way, it's challenging to get back into speaking from the heart again. Interesting.
Yeah. It is.
Well, just to take it back, to rewind for a moment, what the hell are you doing with a unicorn in your house? Where did that come from?
It was a gift from Joe. It was a little private joke because we keep saying we're not the black sheep of our family, we're the rainbow unicorn sheep of our family. So he got me a unicorn.
Well, that might have been how you used to get around before you bought the new car,
And nobody will take it off me, so I'm stuck with it. So.
You know, there's cheesy down the street where on a unicorn's back now.
I'm hoping Beth doesn't see that unicorn. Otherwise, it'll be in the caravan with us on the bloody trip.
Yeah.
She loves unicorns.
The dog's tear it apart. Here, go and play with this.
Has anyone got any moments then on the other, looking at the flip side of the coin? Any moments where you've had those sort of feelings of the inner voice having a go at you, and it's actually stopped you, prevented you from doing whatever it was you were trying to achieve?
All the time. My little voice stops me from talking to people all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, in social events or
events,
chamber events, for example?
Yeah.
And how do you feel when that happens?
A little bit powerless, actually. And it's never really occurred to me until today, until you just suggested that that's what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's kind of what I was hoping somebody would say, actually, because, and don't worry, I won't leave you like that. We'll work on that. So you've got some tools and techniques to overcome that. We won't leave this call with you feeling powerless. Don't worry. But has anyone else experienced that, where you really wanted to do something and your own nerves or your own fear in some way has prevented you from taking action?
Yeah, absolutely. Even it's actually been really interesting, because when myself and my mates traveled the East Coast in 2008, and we came over to Perth, the week before we came to Perth, someone was swimming in the ocean and was taken. I'm not sure if it was an old guy that used to swim there every day, and all they found were a bit of his budgie smugglers. Didn't find his body, but anyway.
Cottesloe?
Yeah, Cottesloe, yeah.
Mm.
And anyway, we flew over and we were like, we're not going in the water. We were staying at the hostel just behind the Cottesloe Hotel. Anyway, when I moved out here, I didn't even think about it. I just forgot about it and was out out swimming and no issue. And this one day, one of my mates, we bought bodyboards, and we were out there in the ocean over at Trig, and it was really grey and murky. It wasn't an exciting day to be out, but there was nobody else out in the water, and the swell was awesome. We're like, why the hell's nobody else out here? And there's people on the beach, but no one's going in the water. And we were out for about 30 minutes. And then we both looked at each other and were like, oh, we better get in quick. And the reason was because there was 4 sharks seen around that area, and they had closed the beaches down and said nobody was supposed to be in the water until they announced they could. And there's us 2 poms out there swimming along and bloody, thinking we're top bodyboarders. So I instantly came in, and from that moment, I didn't go back in the ocean for fear of sharks. And it's only the amount of times I've wanted to go in, and it was really funny, because one of my friends, probably I'm going to say Christmas 2018, she was like, come on, we were down at City Beach, said, come on, we're going to go in the water. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And she went, you're fine, you're going to be with me. There's other people swimming. We went in, and I got up to here, and the alarm went off. There was a shark sighted. And I went, that's it, never again. So, and it's been a process where I've wanted to go in, and I love being in the ocean, I love being in nature, and yet my fear of the shark attacking me, and this might sound crazy, I do not fear death. I do not fear death at all. But I fear being mauled to death. That's what I do fear. So what I started to do was I started to, probably at the beginning of this year maybe, I started to just go in a bit deeper, like knee deep, and then going in a bit and then just swimming around where I wasn't too deep in there. And now I'm more comfortable. And I'll go in and I'll swim around a bit, but there's no way I'd go in and just swim far out. There's no way. But I know that it's not serving me thinking that way. And I know the stats and all that, I'm more likely to be killed by a cow, but it's just not serving me.
A mad cow.
Alex, that I'd like to see.
Another thing that was really interesting was when we were...
They'd chew you to death a lot slower, that's for sure.
And when we were over in... So when we were traveling and we did the Whitsundays, we went snorkeling and I had a panic attack. So the depths is what I fear. So like when you're, what do they call it? Like vertigo, where you're really high up.
Yeah.
Well, when I was snorkeling and I could see the depth of the ocean, I'd freak out. And I could see the anchor, I'd just go into a panic attack. So one of my mates, he actually held my hand while we were snorkeling to calm me down. So I hadn't snorkeled again since then, and obviously
Now
with
you're
this,
opening yourself up for some criticism there.
yeah. Oh, I'm not worried about that. Hey, this is speaking from my heart, not from my head.
Of course.
So, when we were over east in January, my mate and I, we went and did a Great Barrier Reef, and that was the first time I'd gone snorkeling since that experience. And I didn't tell the lady who was like facilitating the whole experience. And my mate's like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm going to be fine. It's mind over matter. That's all it is. It's just mind over matter." So I got in and swimming around, and it was great. Don't get me wrong, but there was like a moment where there was all the reef, and then there was just this drop off, and I was like, "Whoa! The shark could come flying up now and grab me." It's just like, you create this imagination's going crazy. I swam around and came back in, and I was fine. And the lady was like, "How was it?" And I told her, she went, "Why didn't you tell me? If you'd had a panic attack, I'd have needed to know." And I was like, mind over matter. I just kept telling myself everything's going to be fine. And I was, and I'm back here and everything was great. So yeah, interesting how I've allowed that to control me to miss out on all the things that I've really wanted to do out in the ocean in particular.
Oh, I can totally relate to that one. And diving, Joe actually gets vertigo occasionally looking up. When you're down sort of 25, 30 meters and you look up and the surface is a hell of a long way away, she occasionally experiences that. But what you made me think of there, and thanks for that share, Martin, it was the fact that I'm a confident scuba diver. I've done, I don't know, I'm going to check, but something like 250 dives around the world. I've dived down to 60 meters. What a lot of people don't know is that for years, when I ran a backpackers, I was offered the chance by the dive companies to go on an experiential dive, trial dive, and I would turn them down because I had a developed childhood phobia of opening my eyes underwater. And I think it went back to being made to jump in the deep end of a swimming pool as a kid, where they were teaching you to swim, and getting the chlorine in my eyes and my eyes stinging like hell. And so I had that whole kind of, I don't want to open my eyes because I know it's going to really sting. And so therefore that meant that I couldn't entertain the idea of going scuba diving, because I knew part of that would be one of the exercises. You have to be able to remove your mask in case it gets kicked off or something, and figure out how to put it back on. So you're going to have to open your eyes underwater to find your mask and get it back on your head. And so for years, I allowed that to put me off going, and I'd make up the excuses about sharks and things, but really it was that. And it was only when I was actually in a swimming pool in the most bizarre of places. I was in Alice Springs, which is about as far away from the ocean as you can possibly get. And, she got me to, because she was a diver, this girlfriend, English doctor, and she got me to sort of do half a lap of the pool underwater and open my eyes. And she was encouraging me to do it. And I'm thinking, I can't look like a real softie in front of this lady. I've got to impress her. So, the male macho thing kicked in and I had to do it. And then afterwards I went, oh, that wasn't so bad. It stung a little bit, but I could deal with that. So what did I do? I went, all right, bugger it. I'm going to go learn how to dive. So as soon as I could, within a week of getting back, I booked to go on a dive course and did my open water. And then the following month did my advanced. And now here I am I've done dives down inside shipwrecks at 60 meters down and all sorts of stuff. So if you'd have told me that I would be doing that before, I would have laughed at you. I would have said, there's no way you'll get me doing that. So it was a fear, and fear is irrational. They say it stands for false evidence appearing real. That had just got me convinced that I didn't want to do this. I couldn't do it. I would fail at it. I'm not going to even try. And so I denied myself numerous opportunities to go diving for free with all these dive companies. Stupid when I look back, but we all do these sort of things sometimes. We will allow our fears to get in the way of what we want to achieve. So, anyone else got any stories where they were quaking or trembling with fear, or just they allowed this whole experience to put them off? And also, where do you think that comes from? Anyone?
Something
Well,
that, go on, Veronica.
No, you go, Glenn.
I've never been skydiving. Just for that pure. And mates of mine have flown from Singapore for the weekend to go skydiving up at Landsland, what else, because it's supposed to be one of the best places to go and do it. And I said, well, yeah, if you're going to land anywhere, I suppose at least you can sort of direct yourself towards the water. But that's just as hard as land when you're coming from so many thousand feet anyway. But yeah, it's just that heights don't worry me. It is just that free fall and that coming down. I know you've skydived, Tony. I'm not.
I did a parachute jump, which is different. So I didn't do the skydive because usually with a skydive you're attached to somebody. Yeah. And so they're taking you out of that plane, whether you want to go or not, unless you can fight them. You're stronger than them, but they're strapped to you. So they go, right, we're going. You're going with them.
You come with us.
With the parachute jump I did, it was only 3,000 feet, but I had to climb out of the aircraft and hang off the wing strut. And I've got a pilot's license, so I could tell you it took every fiber in my being to force myself to get out of that plane and then to let go of it. I was going, what are you doing? You PH, get back in the plane, you can fly the thing.
You didn't fly the plane and then jump out of it, did you, Tony?
Yeah, I'm very talented. I even got back in and landed it afterwards. No.
One of those James Bond ones. Caught it on the way down and climbed in the other door.
No, there was a pilot, Martin, and I was on the right-hand side, and so the pilot sits on the left, right. But there was two other people behind me, so if I didn't get out, they couldn't get out. So that's what kind of gave me no choice in the end. And it's funny though, because I looked at my mate was sitting behind me, and his face was just white. And funnily enough, the girl who was with us that we didn't know, she chickened out and went back down with the plane. She couldn't do the jump when it came to it. After doing 6 hours of classroom training, because they have to train you because you're on your own. So once you're out there and you let go, you've got 10 seconds to make up your mind if your chute is going to get you to the ground. And if it isn't, if it's twisted, they've taught you how to untwist it. But if you can't, you've got 10 seconds and then you've got to pull the second chute. So the first one is jettisoned and the second one then opens, which is a different chute because it's around like the old parachutist chute you probably had when you were a kid. You probably had those little toy soldiers with the circular chute. So the first chute was more like the James Bond canopy chute. So I did the exercise, got out of the plane, hanging there for what seemed like an eternity. And then I realized that if I didn't let go, there was a forest coming up. There was bush underneath that I was going to be landing on trees, which is not the place you want to be landing. So I had no choice. I had to let go. And the instructor inside is going like, go, 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 go. And I'm going, no. All right. The moment you go, you're supposed to go into the, arms and legs akimbo, as they say, and go like count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just went into the fetal position, I think. Had a moment of sensory overload, which you actually literally black out. You can't fathom out what's going on. And the next thing is this boom, and it's the jolt of the chute opening, because the light's a static line, so it pulls the chute open as you leap. And I look up and my line's all twisted, which probably twisted because I hadn't been in the right position. So then it's like, and your heart's just going like this again. You look up, oh shit. Okay, procedure kicks in, the training kicks in, untangle the chute, which is you've got to like twist yourself around so you spin it back the opposite way to how it's tangled. Then I had it all sorted itself out. The wind filled the canopy. And then it was just an unbelievable experience, because from then it was like being a bird, just literally floating down, and all you can hear is the noise of the wind rustling in the chute. And you really are flying, and it's just an incredible feeling. And for me, that was particularly so because I'd always been used to flying and having the noise of the single engine aircraft buzzing away in the background. So suddenly you've got no noise. You just got that silence. And when you land, and I landed on my feet too, but you feel like you can just do anything. However, I then decided I'm never doing that again, because you know what's coming. The second jump's apparently worse than the first, because you know what's going to
You've experienced it.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's, you know, and that's, you know, I don't think I'm going to put myself in that position where I'm going to jump out of there. But, you know, when it comes to racing my car, it's not an extremely fast car, but that could still cause myself some damage if something failed. I've had 1 or 2 offs where, for the sake of other drivers, I've got out of the way and ended up putting my car in the dirt. And it wasn't until I got back, when they dug the car out of the kitty litter at Barbagallo and we pulled it back into the track, there was someone else was racing. They were following me when they saw it happen, and it was a twilight race coming, and we were coming out of the bowl at Barbagallo up into the sun. And she said to me, Chrissy said to me, "I'm so glad you did what you did, because if you had us stuck, you would have gone straight across and I would have cleaned you up, and we don't want to know what had happened." The worst thing about that particular day was I didn't have my phone on me in the car, because you've got to take all the loose items out of the car. And Denise was sitting in the grandstand, and someone pointed out that I'd gone out on the 3rd lap and hadn't come back. And she was trying to ring me, and my phone was in her handbag, and they're trying to find out where I am and whatever else. And I'm just, you know, covered in dust and dirt and extremely embarrassed because the ego took a big smash because I went off in the dirt. But that was it. But it was, the worst thing was getting back and being told off. But, you know, you haven't got your phone in the car. You should have phoned me to let me know where you were, sort of thing. But yeah, there are occasions where you get out there and you just go, the red mist comes down. And I've said to guys that have raced there quite a lot, "How fast do you go?" They said, "Oh, until I see the white light." And it's just like, nah, no way, coming down that hill. So you just drive the car within its capabilities and don't push it too much. But there'll be, hopefully, be plenty more times when I go out there and do some better stuff with it. But there's just that thing in the back of your head. Like a seasoned guy from the car club had an off at Collie a few weeks back, and he just ran out of brakes. It's hard on brakes and boiled his brake fluid and just went straight on into the tyre wall. He's fine, damaged his car a little bit, but so that happens to those experienced guys as well. So you just know one day it's going to happen, but as long as it's only the car that gets damaged and not you. So I just try and keep my feet on the ground, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, anything I do.
I don't remember the exact quote, but the late Ayrton Senna, who was somebody I used to love watching him race back in the day, the Formula One driver, and he talked about that you have to spin out, you have to lose it on a corner as part of your development as a driver, because if you don't do that, you don't know where the limits are, you don't know what the boundaries are, and so you have to push yourself beyond the limit to find out where the limit is. I thought that was a very interesting insight into the mind of a great, and of course he did end up dying from spinning out and hitting a wall at high speed, didn't he?
Yeah, and you look at those guys that are racing now, and they're sitting in a shell, which is pretty much going to protect them. You know, now they've got that halo around them and everything else like that.
Yeah,
they're in that shell, but you know, the likes of Stenner and Schumacher and guys that preceded them, Sterling Moss.
Nicky Lauda is one I always think back to, getting horrendously burnt. And but if you ever want a story of inspiration, there's a guy to read about. You know, went on to
have you seen the movie about that?
Yeah, he's an incredible man.
Great.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a great share. Thanks for that, Glenn. So we've had some extreme examples. We've had from having to speak at a networking meeting to a fear of sharks, or fear of jumping out of an aircraft, or
Same thing. Networking meeting and sharks.
Yeah, I see your point there. Yeah, good. Yeah, there's some pretty nasty sharks in some of those meetings. But it's funny, isn't it? We can have just the most what seemingly trivial things can set us off, or like Fee was saying, sometimes you just want to pluck up the courage to go and speak to somebody. I mean, I remember being, because I went to an all-boys school and having to go and go to a disco back in the day. That's showing my age. And you know, I went to an all-boys school, so to me, women were these sort of alien creatures, strange beasts that, you know, we had to try and get to know, and didn't know where to start. So I remember spending the whole evening wanting to go and pluck up the courage to go and ask this girl to dance, which was how you obviously started any kind of interaction back in those days. And spending the whole evening just like trying to pluck up the courage and then not doing it. And then being really disgusted with myself for wimping out and not actually going and doing it, you know. And then later on, of course, you develop the realization that it's just a numbers game. You've got to go and ask so many girls to dance, and some of them will say yes. But he had to learn to deal with the walk of shame. You ever remember that, guys? You go across the dance floor, go and talk to the girl. Well, Martin will know. He's just denying it. You have to go and talk to the girl. She says no, and you have to try and make it look like you were just having a casual conversation. You didn't actually get rejected, and find a way to get back to where you came from without looking like a failure. Happy days.
Like Mickey Flanagan says when he goes over to the girls and they reject him, he go, "Come on, lads, it's lesbian night in here. Let's go."
Very good. See, I knew Martin had been rejected. Excellent. So,
like it and said, if you don't spin out, you're not trying hard enough.
Exactly. Exactly. Stan, have you got anything you wanted to add to it?
I think you covered most of it. I think. I remember doing a friend's wedding, and we were friends, and he'd done some work with me for team building. But he kind of said, so it's a Catholic wedding, and they needed all the wine and stuff brought down. So we got invited to do that bit, and also he said, "Can you MC for me?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do that. That's not a drama." Thinking that I was just going to introduce the groomsmen and stuff, only to find out at the rehearsal dinner that none of the groomsmen and none of the bridesmaids actually wanted to speak. So we're like in a room, big family, decided, oh, hang on, I really need to prepare extra stuff because nobody wants to speak about 2 days before the wedding.
Oh, no.
Oh, you had 2 days notice.
2 days notice, yeah. Well, I was emceeing anyway, but I was just thinking, I'm going to introduce the next person to come and, do speeches and stuff like that. And I think they did the toast, and that was about it. They didn't want to do any of the actual speeches. So then you're like, get on the net, find some cool jokes, and then kind of made it, kind of wrote it so it sounded like it was coming from, like from the guys. And I'm like, yeah, Phil said, blah, 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 blah. Phil didn't say anything of the sort.
I love it.
Oh, so you could really have some fun with that and make up all sorts of stuff they didn't say.
Oh, yeah, I did.
That's awesome.
Rose just joined us. She wanted to have some input as well.
I'm just going to ask you a question that doesn't relate to any of what you guys are doing, so I apologise for that. I've spent the last hour trying to upload a Word document to an event. So if anyone knows how to do it, please can you tell me later when you've finished? Because I've got no idea. I know it can be done because I've seen them.
A Word document to an event?
An event on Facebook.
Or even if it goes on my Facebook page and then I can transfer it to my event.
Oh, so you've created an event and you want to post it in there?
I want to post a Word document in there so that they can use it.
Is it in the event or is it in a group?
No, I've created a private event on my private.
Does it have to be Word?
Okay, you'd be probably better off taking a screenshot of it and posting it as a picture.
I was going to say turn it into a PDF and post it like that as well.
Yeah,
that's what the original author, that's what she did first off. She took screenshots of it and then she's managed to post it as a Word document on her page. So she gave me a link to her Facebook page and it was on there as a Word document. And I can use it everything.
You can put it in OneDrive or Dropbox and you can have a link to it.
So, and it's too blurry when you take a screenshot and they can't use it. But I've downloaded it from her Facebook page as a Word document. So I know it can be done.
Can you send me the link that she sent you?
Yes.
So I can go and have a look at what she's done and then I can let you know.
Okay.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Joe using the power of the mastermind. to overcome her fear of Word documents and technology, and gain the resources that she needed. Very good. We're coming close to the end for time. So I did promise Veronica I wouldn't leave you feeling powerless there. There is one great tip for if you're at a meeting and you need to speak to someone and you're plucking up the courage to do it. It was told to me quite some time ago, is to imagine that person sitting on the toilet with their pants around their ankles, just like everybody else. Because
that wouldn't help you. I don't reckon that'd help you. You'd be just like, I don't want to do that now. Everybody's naked.
Yeah, like, now is definitely not the time.
No, so if the fear is of because they're an important person or something and you're not feeling as good as them or in some way belittled by them or that you've got them on a pedestal, then, you know, everyone is a human being at the end of the day. And in fact, funnily enough, last night, I was at a chamber event and met the local mayor, and I recognized her straight away. I went to Joe, that's our JP. We'd been seen her and had documents signed by her. And when we'd seen her, lovely lady, but when we'd seen her, she rides horses. And so very often when we go to see her, she'd be in her horse riding gear or covered in horse markers, stuff like that, not looking all glammed up. But last night when we saw her, she was obviously in a mayor outfit, you know, with a sort of business suit on and looking very professional. And so as soon as I had the chance at the break, I went and sort of said, oh, hi, I just wanted to say hello. And I called her Madam Mayor, of course, because you show the respect for the position. And then afterwards, I had to talk to her and introduce her to someone. But because I'd gone up and spoken, she went, oh, that's so great. Thanks for coming up and speaking to me. Because she said, I was looking at those people. I thought, I know those people. I couldn't remember what place where I'd seen them because she sees so many people during the course of her work. And then I had to introduce her. And I referred to her by her first name at first. And I went, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not, you know, give you your title. She went, nah, don't worry about that. Call me whatever, I don't care. She was really down to earth and great. So you just, you know, they're all people at the end of the day. So we shouldn't ever fear talking to anyone, even though obviously if it's someone, if you say you were going to be introduced to Nelson Mandela, or not now because he's dead, but someone of that kind of ilk, you would be thinking, you know, it's this amazing person. You know, I met some of the Manchester United players last year when they were some of the legends like Brian Robson, Dennis Irwin and so on, that had played professional soccer for years. And to me, they were heroes growing up, you know, but when you talk to them, they're just ordinary, nice people, you know, they're just everyday guys. They just happen to have done something extraordinary. So that's made us think of them as extraordinary, but underneath it all, they're just ordinary people. So that's one tip. The other is if you're going to be doing public speaking, there's certainly some NLP techniques, like I mentioned, the anchoring. So with that one, you would find something, you know, in the same way that when you hear a song, it immediately reminds you of where you were at when that song was a hit. You know, you were dancing to it, or you were with a friend or a partner, or, you know, romantic interlude or whatever. Songs remind you of situations in your life, don't they? Very quickly. Music's very much a strong one for anchoring you to that moment in time, that experience. So you're using the same kind of principle, but just using a ritual. So in this case, when I put myself into that sort of state of concentrating on it and just touch that knuckle, I can immediately recall how I felt that moment when I landed that aircraft. And so you do something like that. Another big one is breathing. All the religions talk about this, breathing. Taking a few deep breaths puts you immediately in a more relaxed state, and then you can just be yourself. And like Martin said at the beginning, if you're talking from the heart and rather than from trying to be smart or whatever from your head, it comes out a lot more fluid and genuine, and just being authentic. So the authentic you can deal with anything that comes up. And the whole point about why I brought this up today about that I've got this is that when you get that experience of nervousness or anxiety or overwhelm, it's really coming from your ego. So your ego is trying to do its job, which is to keep you safe. So your ego is telling you, it's hitting you with all the reasons why you should not do this thing because it might be perceived as unsafe to you. Obviously, with things like sharks and parachuting and so on, they are massive things. But equally, if it's public speaking or even just going up and talking to someone, there's fears that kick in, like fear of rejection, fear of failure, possibly in some cases even fear of success. You know, what if I actually do this? What happens then? Can I cope with what comes after that? So there's all these fears that kick in, and they are being put into your brain by your ego, which is its job is to protect you and keep you safe. So you can override that. You can hear the voice, which is your own voice speaking to you, saying, don't go and talk to that person. That's going to, you know, who do you think you are? And what the hell do you think you're doing trying to achieve this? That's just trying to keep you safe. You can even come up with a name for it, for that inner voice. So being the observer and stepping back and hearing your own voice in your head and going, whatever you want to call it, Martin, for example, shut up, Martin, I've got this. So have a pet name for it. Okay, so your inner critic, you can silence that inner critic and use the tools at your disposal to tell yourself, I've got this, and just go do it. Anyone else got anything last to add before we tie up the call?
I'll send it to you, Martin.
Joe sent you the document. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
So that's how we use the power of the
Been
mind.
around there before.
You clean up your playroom.
Don't clean up your playrooms, Dad. That's just that last thing I saw when you panned out to put Joe in the picture was the wood carving up on your shelf. It just says be yourself.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So up there,
Up there somewhere.
it actually said, it's actually, where is it?
Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.
It's an
Oh,
Oscar.
I see. Oh, even better. There we go.
Yeah, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.
Just, I might add, Martin, be careful with that because it's a women's only group.
Woo!
So let your feminine side come out.
Martina will deal with it. Don't worry.
I've been waiting to get the wig out.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for your input contribution today. I hope that's been of some use to you all, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Awesome call.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, Tony.
See you later. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
We hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and for more information about joining one of these mastermind groups for free, how they can benefit you, the magical personal development program, plus the wealth creation opportunities that are all available to you through Noble Goldman, contact Tony Inman via www.tonyinman.com.au.